mental illness isn't just something that affects those experiencing it, but also those in their support network around them. In this series, I have three of the closest people in my support network sharing their perspectives on what they experienced, what they saw that I was experiencing, and what advice they have for others going through that process. Well, thank you everyone for being here. I really appreciate you being here today. For the benefit of the viewers at home, really the purpose of today's session is to give the perspectives of those in my support network that were with me through my moments of crisis, through my recovery, everything in between, and really help provide a platform for you to give your perspectives on different things that happen, along the way, and some of the things that you noticed. Also to clarify, just a level set, as many know in my content, I kind of split my experience in two episodes. The first being when I was at a work conference in France and came back to Canada in a moment of crisis and went through that recovery journey. And the second being when I had an incident in my office building, which we'll expand on, and was hospitalized into St. Mike's in Toronto. So the focus of this discussion will be centered around the second episode. But if there's things in your answer that kind of overlap the two episodes, things before or after, by all means, state your answers as candidly as possible, whatever you're comfortable speaking about. Because, oftentimes we hear about mental health from the perspective of the person experiencing it themselves, but we never really hear from the support networks. So I really appreciate you guys being here to show the vulnerability in being able to express it from what a support network kind of experiences themselves, and maybe some advice that you might have for others that are experiencing it as well with a loved one. So I really appreciate you guys being here. So I'll give kind of a quick intro of you guys, but if you wanted to add anything for the viewers of home about your own intro. So with me today is my aunt Angela, who was a key member of my support system, really helping support both myself but also my mother as she grappled with being a mother, coming into this world of now having a son with bipolar and what that meant. So really being her and my uncle Cletus being key supports for my mother and myself in that process. So really appreciate you for that. My friend Sunny, who I've known since I was 14, since our high school days. We'll cover many topics in this session in terms of what we've gone through over time and what he might have seen and experienced as well. And then also my friend and former work colleague as well, Steve, who I've known since 2014 when he came to Canada from Australia. And he's actually specifically in town for this from New York to help support me from this content. So I really appreciate the three of you being here. Is there anything that the three of you wanted to add just in terms of your backgrounds before we jumped into things?
No.
Okay, fair enough. So I'll start with Aunt Angela. So one of the things I think as I was going through both my first and second episodes that I didn't really fully appreciate was the impact and toll that what I was experiencing was having on my mother. Because from my perspective, my mother showed a lot of strength and stability for me in helping guide me through that time. But can you maybe help describe with some of your conversations with her, maybe some of the things that she was feeling and experiencing as you supported her, you and Uncle supported her in being able to feel what she was feeling?
As you know, we known you as a little boy, short of changing your diapers. We known you for all the 35 years, and
Yeah.
your mom and I were very close friends, and really you and Mom were our first Canadian friends. So Mom was very open. She didn't keep any secrets. She confided in me, and I did with her. And to us, you have always been her greatest joy. So she never boasted about you, but she was proud about you. And she always taught you and trained you to be the best citizen and the best friend and the best son. So for her, when this episode happened and when this crash came, I know that she took it bravely, but her insides were shaken. And the first thing was she phoned us and said, Ange, this is what's happened. I'm really shocked. I don't know what to do. And of course, Uncle always stepped up to the plate, and we told her nothing to worry. We are there for you. And over the few weeks or even couple of months, it took time for her to really understand, is this for real? But being the strong, faith-based person she is and the mom she is, she fought through that too. And she knew that if she could make it through the ins and outs of her settling in Canada, she just knew that you would make it and come true to it. But
Yeah.
yes, she was very concerned. I've seen her cry. Very rarely have I seen her do that. She did, and we were there to tell her it's okay, things will get better.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you for that.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I mean, what the support that you provided her, really gave her the strength to be able to support me the way I needed to be supported during
Yeah.
that time. So yeah, it's it's very appreciated. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you for that, Steve. Um, you were there from almost minute one of episode 2. I'm not sure if you saw me stripped down naked in the lobby of the building, but you would have been there moments right after that happened.
Yeah.
Can you maybe describe what you saw at ground zero of that moment?
Yeah, I've got some memories of that day. A lot of it was a blur, but ground zero, what did it feel like? I remember someone coming. I was presenting in a meeting room, and a partner came running in. I had to grab me, took me out of the room. I didn't know what was going on, and so that you were downstairs and needed help, and obviously knew that had the backstory that may have at that point realized that something may have happened. I didn't expect you to be downstairs with no clothes on. I'll be honest. I realized at that point the gravity of the situation. But when I was there, everything felt calm. It was oddly calm at that point.
Yeah.
And clearly something had happened, but you were calm. And then the ambulance came. We sort of went to the ambulance and went off to St. Mike's. And after that, it was a bit of a blur of a day. But I just remember coming downstairs, realizing the gravity of the situation. But you were sitting there, really calm in the chaos.
Yeah, and what was amazing about it was, for the benefits of the viewers at home, it's also in my blog post in the book chapter on the awakening, some of the details around it. But I had actually come into work that day knowing something was wrong. Like, I had received a phone call from someone that was with me in France because of some of the texts I was sending into the group chat. And she's like, Shaq, you need to go back to the hospital. And so she actually got on the phone with my mother and saying, Mrs. Shaw, like, your son, there's something wrong. He needs to go back to the hospital.
Wow.
And so that was the night before. And I actually went back into work that day to wind things down, rather than just going to the hospital that night before. And so I was in a state of heightened mania, like a hypomanic state, where even the way I was driving into work that day, there was one of those traffic helicopters above. I assumed that traffic helicopter was following me into work. So I started zooming in and out of traffic. Can you imagine rush hour traffic going downtown? I started zooming in and out of cars, driving like
I
a
can believe
madman.
that because
Yeah.
I remember having to move your car that night, and
Yeah.
3 of the tires were were busted. I don't know how you got the car into
It,
the
Really?
into the lot.
it was like a need for speed moment going into work that day. Like
Oh,
it
wow.
was crazy. And so when I got into work, I was in a heightened state, hypomanic state,
Oh.
and I started to build a story around people in the office looking at me a certain way. Like when people were on their phone texting, I assumed they were texting about me to like the next bad actor in the story. And so I had got into a very paranoid state of mind where I just went down to the lobby of the building and I was like, you know what? I know all of you guys are out to get me. And I'm like, to prove it, I'm going to strip down naked. You can't do anything to me. And
Wow.
but what was amazing about that, what I noticed was there are so many emergency protocols in buildings that we don't fully appreciate what's working in the background. Like there were people that started to come up to me that knew what to say to me to start to calm me down.
Wow.
And it was amazing. Like there was a building manager that kind of sat with me. There was like a national security officer at the company that I had never heard about that came up to me. And then slowly different people from the company came up to me, including you and Jamie, that escorted me to the hospital. So it's like there were stages that started to calm me down that I didn't fully appreciate were kicking into place at that stage. And the second thing that you did for me that I couldn't be more grateful about was you took the car as busted as it was. You took a cab, I guess, home with my work stuff to tell my mom that this is what's happened and everything's gonna be okay. Like, can you maybe describe how maybe that interaction was at that moment in time?
Yeah, that was I had butterfly. I remember having butterflies in my stomach, having to go and speak to your mom and let her know what had happened, and knowing the importance of the relationship you had with your mom and how strong that was, and the importance, and that this would be something that'd be tough for her. But like you are, the resiliency and the strength. She describing what happened. It was really calm. She was like able to digest it and think it almost like brain went into what's the next step and how do we be proactive and productive about it. So the composure she had was something I really remember from that night. I'll never forget.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And then, moving on in that day, Sonny, you were able to meet me at the emergency room when I was stuck in that little cell almost
Oh,
tucked
yeah.
away in the corner of the emergency room with little holes in the concrete ceiling. Almost felt like a jail cell, to be honest.
Same day?
Same day. And I remember you sitting there as I'm kind of resting. And, what's great about you and what my mom's always appreciated about you as well is that you just figure out how to get shit done when in moments of crisis. That's one of your gifts. And it was like, I could see you kind of plotting. You're like, man, this room is garbage. Like, well, you can't do anything in here. You can't recover in here. And throughout the course of the night, I don't even know what time it was, but eventually I got upstairs into the normal unit, into a very secure area. Like it felt like I was under like direct control because the nurse was looking directly into my room. Like it was all glass. Because obviously it was a very delicate situation as to what had happened. Can you maybe describe what you were experiencing at the time when you came to see me and saw me in those moments?
Yeah, this is such a long time ago. Initially, I was thinking, was it a car accident? Did he get hit by a car? Was he walking? The bipolar thing was not even in my head. But when I actually I saw where you're staying, and I was like, this would give anybody a heart attack. Like, there's no way anyone can recover in this process because it's not safe. Literally, it's like a jail cell.
Yeah.
The third thing going through my head was, did the doctor screw up? Because first of all, I thought you were under the proper care and on the medication
Meds
and streamlining. So that was the third thing. But in between there, my brain just works better under crisis. So
Yeah.
It's like, we need to get you somewhere safe, because knowing you is that safe, it would bring you back.
Yeah.
And that was not safe.
Yeah.
Like, you could
Yeah.
throw me in there, you could throw any of us in there, we would not feel safe in that little
Yeah. It's
room
like
with
solitary
it's
confinement.
literally solitary confinement with
Yeah.
the small little window. But yeah, no, we were able to, once we got you moved, I definitely noticed a difference. And so yeah, there was a lot of emotions at that time, which I guess I stopped, because the goal was, okay, we need to, step
Get you
one,
out.
we need to move
Yeah.
Shaq to somewhere safe. Whatever emotion I'm feeling right now, I just kind of blocked it out at that time, because it was not going to get me results, which was to move you.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
like Steve, because he has to block out the memory of you naked. I didn't have to deal with that one. Sorry, I digress there. But yeah, no, like I said, I've known Shaq since I was 14, and I can probably count the number of times he's gotten sick.
Yeah.
Angela, you've known him even longer. Like, Shaq's always been like super invincible. He doesn't get sick, knock
Yeah.
on the wood, right? So this was very like, what's going on?
Yeah.
That's why I was in my head. It was a lot
Yeah.
to process. But once I focused that energy on seeing that, we got you moved, and I could start seeing positive results, and
Yeah.
that was a relief.
I think one of the things you said resonates, where as much as when the episode happened, it wasn't like, I understood the context that something like that could happen.
Yeah.
But I was shocked. And maybe because I saw the progress from the first episode to this, and it's not like it was a straight line, but there was progress, and it felt like the old version of you was coming back over time. And so like, it was a surprise. It wasn't something that, and I think back, like, we talked about, like, were there signs, or there's something that it could have seen, and maybe because things felt like they were going in the right direction, it was a big surprise.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about it was, because I was making such great progress, like a lot of times, especially with my mother as well, is when you think about making progress in your health, you assume that you can reduce and stop taking medications. So both me and my mother were starting to just tinker with,
It's
like,
okay.
why are you even on these medications? Like, you're doing well, you're back on your feet, you're past this bipolar, like it doesn't exist anymore almost. Right. And so we were making decisions without my psychiatrist even knowing that I wasn't taking my medications as regularly. I stopped taking it at one point. And what was ironic about what brought on the second episode was the triggering event was the gratitude of overcoming what I had experienced after the first event. So what triggered me was the overwhelming emotions associated with gratitude, which is ironic, right? What triggered me was the fact that I overcame this. And that's what set me into the spiral of, like, racing thoughts, being so thankful that I needed to send out thank you emails at like 2 a.m. And that's kind of what
that's what you were doing. We
that's
all
what I was
received,
doing.
yeah.
Right. And I was sending text messages at like 2,
everyone,
3
yeah.
a.m. And so I think that's really what set me over the edge. And that's what people didn't see was, oftentimes we associate a manic episode, any episode, a psychotic episode, with something bad. But good things can actually, too much of a good thing can be a problem as well.
Yeah.
Right. And, that's why a lot of people didn't see it, because I shielded it, because I was making progress. And what I always say is 80% of the time you cannot be on the medications and be okay, but it's that 20% where you start getting into those danger zones that you better be on the medications.
And talking about your medications, that's true, because that first question that came was, I know your mom was 0 for medications.
Yeah.
We visited her once in the hospital. She took all her meds and said, just throw it out and take me back home. So I could clearly see her thinking, like, you know what, Shaq, you don't need this. I think you're fine. And I think that's when it went wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. Because I was with her and with you, and I saw that was part of it happening.
Yeah.
And also talking about your emotions, when you sent everyone these emails, it was like so amazing, because we've known you as a boy, as a child. You were very quiet. You were more nonverbal. And
Shaq?
Are we talking
Non-verbal. From 8 years, from
That's
8
not the
years
version
to
There was
Yeah.
different versions of me,
yeah,
Steve.
from 8 years to this, he was just this beautiful boy who came with his mom, listened to everyone, and his mom knew that,
They're snickering.
yeah, his mom knew that, okay, I've got this loving son, but I don't see any of him showing that how much he loves. Till one day she said, Ange, I have to send you this letter. Shaq wrote this letter to me. Mom, I love you. Mom, thank you for all that you've done for me. Mom, I have never been able to tell you that. She cried. She kept that letter close to her heart. And that was the good part of being able to explore who you are, who you were, and who you're becoming.
Yeah.
So we have to thank God for this amazing,
Yeah.
sometimes you look at it as a blessing, because
Yeah.
so much of you has come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think there are a lot of as not that I would wish this on anybody, but there's a lot of gifts that come from going through adversity in life where you can start to put yourself in other people's shoes in a way that you've never been able to before. Right. And part of why I'm doing what I'm doing, and even how you guys are helping me today provide the perspectives as a support network, is there's so many people that need to hear this, because there's a lot of gifts that come from a condition from bipolar, such as compassion, empathy. There's a lot of genius that comes from it that people can embrace and take those parts of them and just make sure that they work on the parts that can really spiral out of control.
True.
So in terms of, because you can go back to childhood all the way up, not just focusing on the second episode, but this is kind of a question to the group. Were there signs in the way I was that you might have saw that you're like, there's something there? I don't know what it is, but something might be off with Shaq, or something might be of concern to you. Like, this is just a broad question for the group, if anyone wants to take a first stab.
I don't know. Like, I think in as I try to reflect back on that period of time, the some of the challenges that I felt was wanting to give you space to be on this recovery journey, and not wanting you to feel judged, or when something was a little different to what I would have expected before, giving you the space to go through your journey as well, and still being there through that. And so if some of the times I felt somewhat confused or not sure how to help, was when to step in and be like, what's going on here, or when that's just you just need a bit of space. And so I certainly felt some of those times, but I'll say my shoes, I was confused as to how to handle those in some instances.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I look back, I mean, you've always been high energy. I mean, looking back now, 10 years is like...
So you can't even believe it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've seen the quiet Shaq in high school. Like, there was an
Now I see the real
evolution
Shaq.
of Shaq, basically, after he met me, and then he met Steve. We like to see we were a positive influence. So yeah, there's multiple aspects. There's an evolution of the person, right? Like, who we are in, let's say, kindergarten and then middle school. You're growing as an individual, and then if you throw in a mental health aspect, it's growing. So it's a lot of changes. And like I said, looking back, like, what was it, 10 years? 10 years? Roughly, right? 10 years?
9 years now, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because I just remember you having so much energy. Like, for instance, when he came for my birthday, 24 hours in and out.
24 hours in Vegas.
Without sleep.
Yeah.
Like, if you look back, that's a human being should not be able to do that.
Yeah.
And then go to work and then function productively for 12 hours, like, with no sleep and still producing results is like not human.
Yeah.
So looking back, there probably were certain things to be like, this is not normal. But I never took them as signs. I just assumed that was, Shaq that was like your normal level.
That was the baseline.
That was your baseline, which was so much energy.
Well, invincible.
Invincible, right? That was your baseline. So looking back, I'm like, no, that alone was not the right baseline. You were already operating at 120% day in, day out. That's not humanly possible.
Yeah.
You're not Superman.
Yeah.
Even though we like to think you are.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So there definitely were signs now that I can look back at certain things. And for that specific, the second episode, I think there was, I mean, back then, I think I was working downtown. During business hours, you kind of did your own work thing. We never really hung out at like lunch and stuff. But I think during that time, I vaguely remember that you wanting to hang out or something, which normally we would hang out on weekends, but this was like a weekday thing.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember that. That was something not normal, but I
Yeah.
didn't think of as much. I'm like, I'll see him on Friday, but that Friday never came because there was an
The
incident.
episode, yeah.
The episode happened. So
Yeah.
looking back, it may have been a sign of, you needed safety or someone that you know for a long time. I never saw it as a sign. I thought I'll see him on Friday anyways.
Yeah.
That would.
What was the time difference between your first episode and your second? How many months?
So it was exactly a year.
A year?
Oh.
So that was the gratitude expression was I've now had a year milestone
Oh,
since my
wow.
first milestone, since my first episode. And that's what the trigger was.
Oh, wow. It took a year.
Took a year.
So that was the anniversary.
It was the
So
anniversary.
the combination of that
Yeah.
and then you reducing your medications without under medical supervision.
Correct.
You just kind of did it. And we all know your mom. Your mom didn't even like to take her blood pressure.
Yeah.
pills. So she was kind of like, I don't need this. I'm fine.
Oh, my
kinda
son is
thing.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's
we're
fine now.
good. Bipolar doesn't exist
There's a lot of
anymore.
misconceptions on mental health where like,
Well, and you're going to focus on advice you get from people that feeds your narrative.
Mm.
So at the
Yes.
time she had spoken to a family friend who was a doctor that said bipolar was curable.
Mm.
Not that it was treatable, but that it was curable. So in her mind, she's like, he's fine.
Okay.
Doesn't need medications anymore. Right. But I think, what I've done since the second episode is really educated myself to say, I can't just pretend like this doesn't exist.
True.
I think a lot of people will tell me, oh, you seem fine. You don't need your medications. But
That's another thing.
That's a very dangerous thing to say to someone
everyone
too.
becomes a medical professional
Everyone
overnight
becomes a
with
medical
Google,
professional.
where you don't need to take this. That's also
Yeah.
a lot of
I know.
things.
Yeah, exactly. And what's interesting, and Steve, both Steve and Sonny can probably, both Sonny and Steve can probably speak to this pretty well, is the fact that in the workplace, you're rewarded for being a machine. Like I remember close to my second episode, I was working with a partner out of Montreal, and his review comment was, Shaq's a machine. And that in the workplace is viewed as a badge of honor. It's like, wow, this guy operates at another level. In terms of your own stories, like how can you relate some of your own experiences with the corporate world and what you've experienced in your own mental health journeys, and how maybe even some of my story has helped maybe reshape some of how you think about your own stories?
You go first. Yeah, I'd say like we met at in Toronto when I moved up here for work, and amongst our colleagues and the ones that we were friends with, you were almost like a big brother persona to that group, and to me, someone I looked up to, and you were senior to me, and everyone saw you as the operator of the machine. That if you could operate like Shaq, that's what good looks like. And so, or from a early part of our friendship, always looked up to the way that you operated like that. But then having gone through the experience and seeing and being somewhat naive to, like we said, we've seen you work 24 hours straight and come back in the next day and do it all over again, and that be normal. In hindsight, with everything that has happened, there's certainly points in my career and my life where step back and have to realize that there is a breaking point, and that there is a need sometimes for a pause, or just to not operate at 125% all the time, and even when that's the instant gratification, is knowing that you've crushed a project or you've done something really well at work.
Wow.
But constantly doing that ends up in an unhealthy place.
Mm.
Yeah, I'll add to that where like it's easier to do it when you're 20s, but when you're in your 20s, you have a whole bunch of student debt. You're out there, you're full of energy. The baseline is probably you're competing, I guess, with your peers, which so you're obviously are going to go above and beyond. Very quickly, the baseline becomes 120%, where like next thing you know, you're in your 30s. So now you're expected to operate at 120%, or if there's a problem, you're going to get results. Oftentimes, when you're in that age group, you're not thinking that, hey, I can't do this in my 40s, 50s, and 60s, right? So the instant gratification is, yeah, you can do it in 20, you can function, you could pull an all-nighter, you can ace all your exams, you can get clients, you could do that in your 20s and 30s. But once you 40s, I mean, we are in our 40s now, but I'm sure we're gonna get our 50s.
Nearly there.
not yet. Not
He
yet.
doesn't want to be grouped in there. But as you get older, again, it's the evolution of you're 14, and then you're quiet, you're speaking. Then there's another evolution of like you've already made the money. You're not driven by revenues anymore, right? There's something changes.
Yeah.
Can you still operate at that 120 baseline percent, right?
Yeah.
My personal journey that's when I realized that I cannot be a T4 employee. I need to get paid for my time.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to be working 80 hours a week, I need to get paid for 80 hours. And that's where I started the journey of billable hours or self-employment. Like,
Yeah.
this is the amount of work I'm going to do. I can do the work. I'll get it done. I can work the 80 hours if you want, but I need to get paid for it.
Yeah.
I can split that 80 hours in the course of the month. I'll still get the same result. It doesn't have to be instantaneous. Like,
Yeah.
Sometimes, the expectations we put on ourselves. Maybe your boss doesn't really need it done tomorrow, but we just think if we get it done before it's required, you get that instant satisfaction.
And I think that's a great point you make there, because I think you, Steve, and I have all now gone on an entrepreneurial journey and created our own spaces. And I think you're right, is a lot of the expectation comes from yourself.
Yeah.
Like in some of the conversations I've had with my ex-boss since, he's like, Shaq, honestly, like I didn't expect you to do that. You just kind of did it.
Yeah.
Right? Because you kept trying to one up yourself almost, right? It's like you're outbidding yourself in that stage. And it's now with clients, there's times where I know I'm having a bad week or a bad month, and I'm just like, you know what? Like, I just need a break. And like, I will get this to you, or I will figure out how to get this to you, but it's not going to be when I originally promised. And I need to feel comfortable being able to say that and have that relationship with those clients. Because one of the reasons I share my story too is the more people know about me, they'll understand the why of what I'm doing something. When you say or do something, people might be like, that seems out of character, because they might not know something underlying what's going on with that issue, right? And so that's where I come with it. But one of the other things I appreciated about Uncle Cletus was the way he operated, and he was a role model for me. Was he was a business owner himself, and what I respected about him though was work hours were for work, and he did his solid 7-8 hours a day, but family time was family time.
True.
And his role was really important to me to help say that's the type of man I want to be a well-rounded, balanced person, right? And I don't know, like, if in what you saw of him and his interaction with me, if you kind of can speak to that maybe a little bit as well.
True, because when I always connect you and mom together, because you are who your parents are, right? And thank goodness that your mom, if I can remember her, was a role model to many people. And they thought, being a single mom, if Nasreen can do it, we can do it too. So they looked at it with their single sons, children, as a single mom. I had so many people look up to mom that way. And I thank God that your mom always said, in Canada, Cletus and I and Nicole were your family. So family, love, relationships, not just like saying, meet you once or twice a year. We met practically every 10 days, definitely many times a month. So we became family.
Yeah.
So I always think that family shouldn't be defined. It is who you are, how you express your love, and how much we give. So we gave, but I do think your mom and you gave back too, because seeing the fullness of who your mom and you were, we were able to also give back to y'all. And I know that your mom would always say, oh, my Shahrukh, he thinks he's going to be like Cletus Castellino. And little did we realize you were looking at Cletus's progress of his healthy disposition,
Yeah.
and you, even in his success rate, you looked at yourself becoming successful. I've seen the fullness in you.
Yeah.
And I think we all have fullnesses, whether it's a low time, a high, or what happened to you. So when we were there for mom and you, we just looked at you as a full person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that being the full person is truly giving of yourself. That there was so much love given to you and your mom by a few very close friends, mainly them, us, and a few others. So for me, I never even saw it as a threat, never even saw it as a pullback. I saw it as growth, because of whom I said I saw you then and who you are now. I said, wow, this is the real Shaq, and we still have to see so much more of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so seeing it, coming to visit you when you were in the hospital, never even thought of anything. We were proud that you wanted Cletus and me to see you.
Yeah.
And mom was proud too. So no fear, just love. And we just said, you had two strong people, uncle and myself. And we never saw any way you were going to go back. That's who you are. And I think awareness of bipolar has made me such a, knowledgeable person, make me empathize with people, because sometimes we never knew what bipolar was, what schizophrenia was. We just thought it was not for us. When you see someone right before your eyes grow up and experience and hear how much you share about it, that's something nobody talks about. So you just totally make us all more proud of you speaking up and speaking out for people with mental health, especially bipolar. So we have to thank you for opening up and letting us know, hey, there's no stigma to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I mean, just hearing you say that, you should be running your own podcast, doing these things, know. But I think that's a perfect segue into what I wanted to chat about next was, you three being key pieces of my support system during that time was, for others who are out there that either have somebody either that's lived with the condition for a long time or recently been diagnosed and are really struggling to understand how to support that person. What maybe pieces of advice would you all have for those people, or something you would say directly to them to help give them the strength or the comfort to know that they can do something to be impactful, and it's okay not to have all the answers?
Yeah, I mean, I would start by saying that bipolar was your superpower, actually. The reason why you were able to operate, 120% day in, day out was because of, it doesn't need to be taken as a negative connotation.
Yeah.
But for people that are supporting, number one, don't Google it. Try to read, I would say try to read research papers, like peer reviewed, which you may not understand, but, or ask the individual what bipolar is, because I think there's a lot of misconception of, this can be cured or it's a bad thing. I would say try to educate yourself on the impact and side effects on the medication, because there's going to be changes. With any medication, there is going to be some changes in that. Embrace those changes with that, because it may not be the same person that you've known. It's like an evolution. I guess you're going to have to just go with it. On that journey, because
yeah, I would say I don't know, like, while things have changed, I think that what I appreciate is it still feels like our friendship is the exact same. And so while has been a lot of noise going through it, while there's been plenty of times where it's confusion, concern, want to help, don't know how to help, all those things, is if I could tell myself something, or the next person might go through it, is it's going to be the friendship's still the same. Still going to be there 5, 10, 20 years time, and so you don't have to solve it all in that moment. And it's okay to learn along that way as well. I feel like I've learned a lot, and I feel like I've personally appreciate a lot about this experience. I think I the admiration I have for your ability to deal with adversity and see that challenge and create something good out of it. I would have thought that the types of challenges that I see that you had to face and how you've tackled it and what you've created out of it, it's admirable, and proud that you're my friend and that you've got people in my network like you that can do that. And yeah, it's been a really, while it's come with its challenges, it's a really positive and productive thing.
Yeah, actually, I like that. I think our friendship's even stronger
Yeah.
than it was before.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Steve said, you're right. There was a lot of noise, and someone who's just recently diagnosed and you're trying to support, just know that it's like 5-10 year, like it's gonna be a journey, and it's like going on a battlefield together. You're gonna
Yeah.
evolve. You become comrades even closer, if that was possible. I didn't think I could be even closer to Shaq, right? Considering from the age of our all life experiences.
Yeah. No, I feel the same way. It's yeah, when you go to war together, so to speak, not to disparage anyone that's actually been in war, but it is like a mental form of warfare, right? And there's moments where you're gonna be like, have I know I felt, have I lost myself forever at times? And I don't know if in those moments you guys might have felt, have I lost my friend forever? But it's scary, right? And I've had people reach out to me in support networks that are like, I have just lost my son. I've lost, my father. What it's a tough thing, and it's like the journey can be 1 year, could be 5 years, could be 20 years, right? And it's not easy, right? And I don't know if you have anything else to add on this topic at all, for advice that you might have to other support and caregivers.
Yeah, you've helped us to understand more about mental health, more like physically hearing you, seeing the growth of your development. I always seen development growth. A lot of you come out. So to me, I would never be able to label someone with a mental health issue, because I will still say somebody who has to really love people, understand them for the worst and for the best. And when you surround yourself with these people, then your growth, or people with mental health, should feel so safe. They should feel so loved. And I think your growth has been because you receive love. I saw your mom just give you love. Being as a single mom, she never let you feel deprived of anything. So when this episode happened, when the crash took place, for me, I always say thank God, because He reveals the best in us. And even in that journey, I've seen your mom has been faithful. She was always with her Quran, myself with my Bible, yourself growing in love, not defining what religion or faith is. And that's really what I see. And if I saw anyone with mental health, I'm more aware of it. I'm able to give more. And I remember when we were driving once to put your mom's ashes by the river, um, we saw a guy maybe drunk overnight, and I think some of us made some comment, but you spoke against that, and you said, hey guys, that guy could have been going through a lot. We cannot kind of laugh or kind of label him. And that brings another awareness too. So seeing people, not judging them, because here we have you as our very own son, nephew, friend. It just gives us more awareness, and people should be talking about it like, wow, as if somebody's just got a headache, or there is treatment, there is help, and you can be who you are without being embarrassed or trying to hide it.
Yeah.
As you said, right, don't hide.
Yeah, actually, I was wanted to add a point. It just triggered in my head is that one thing we took for granted, I take for granted, is the support network that I have. There's some individuals that don't have a support network, and
Yeah.
it seems like your bipolar empath is probably your vision is to become that support network for people that don't have,
Yeah.
because those are different challenges. I mean, I don't know if the results would have been the same if you hadn't a support network for individuals.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's right. Like, I think a big reason of why I do what I do is because I know there's a lot of people that suffer either in silence because they're not comfortable telling people in the network, either they feel shame or they feel like people might not support them. And there's various reasons for that. And, when I was interviewing Yolanda prior to you guys, one of the topics we were talking about was sharing our stories so publicly has fostered so many connections and conversations with people that we otherwise would never have met. I would never have met her if it wasn't for us being so open about our stories and helping support each other as we support other people living with bipolar and what they deal with, but not just them, but also their support systems, which is why I felt it was so important to have this discussion with you all as well, because, I think oftentimes we think about the person and, I think there's an acceptance that the person needs to get to start to heal and start to really get the help they need. But there are things that even if they have one person, and I know that is saying a lot because a lot of people don't even have that one person, but even just that one person, and it could be me through whatever channel it is, it's that one person that says, you got this. And I know it's scary and you'll, I don't know how it's going to happen, but you're going to get past this. Right. And it's such a powerful thing for people to have. And I feel so fortunate, the three of you are sitting here, but as you all know, I had so many people in my support system. Like at the hospital, I had 2 people visiting me at a time, maybe like 10 visitors a day. Some people don't even have 1 people over 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so that was so impactful too. Like, can you maybe, on the next topic, maybe even talking about seeing me in the hospital, like what that experience was like for you all?
The second episode felt very different to the first. The first was felt totally out of nowhere, and that was confronting to see the first time. The second time, and because maybe I was there at the event and was at the hospital day one, it I don't know, didn't feel, the second one didn't feel as confronting to me as the first, but I don't know what you guys might have felt.
Yeah, like I said, to me, you've always been invincible. So the first time was definitely like, oh, did he get into a car accident? What happened? Right?
Yeah.
Even like when you were talking to me, I still remember some of the conversations. In my head, I'm thinking it's shock. What you're saying is valid, but when I actually what you're saying was, again, it was paranoia and scare. It didn't make sense. My brain didn't process it because I'm still seeing you as the Shaq that I know. So I'm like, okay, who do I have to go beat up? I'm joking, right? Because my head is like, I need to protect my friend, right? But then now that I'm processing the content, it's like, hold on a second, that is not the Shaq. There's something going on here. And like Steve, like the second time, it was less shocking, but it didn't make sense to me because I thought you were under the medical care and the profession, and again, the progress we've seen. So it wasn't as daunting, but then I think I did notice a quicker recovery, but I'm glad they kept you there longer than, necessary at times.
We talked about the network thing. I think maybe the second time as well, what I personally felt is our friendship, our group of friends, that things that you didn't see but I experienced. The concern of such a broad spectrum of people, that it felt like a team effort, that everyone wanted to be there and were a bit more prepared this time. And so the feeling of like this love and care of so many people in your network, and I found that through that, it felt I went into that with a level of confidence because there was this community that was going to support you through it. That was maybe a little bit more prepared for this one than the first.
And what's interesting about that comment, sorry, before we get to you and Angela, is see what I saw was people just naturally showing up over the course of the day and over the course of the different days. I'm like, oh, this seems perfect. This person just randomly showed up at 2 p.m. This person showed up at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily see
Realize that
the
people are.
planning in the background to be like, this is when I'm going to see Shaq. This is when I'm going to see Shaq, to line up all those things. And it's amazing how a support team rallies behind each other to support the supporters, you know, and it's not just you supporting the person, but you're supporting each other as you're supporting your friend, right?
Oh yeah, we had a group chat going. I don't know if you know, where Steve was really good at updating everybody. So we actually did level it out because we don't want you to be alone at the hospital. So
Yeah.
yeah, we did.
Had a good chat.
Yeah, it was important. Like there were people in there that didn't see anyone for 2 weeks. It was
Yeah.
quite sad to see people like that, right? And you know, I don't know when you and Uncle came, how you experienced it.
As I said, right, when you love someone, mental illness labels don't really matter. So when we came, we didn't even know the seriousness of it. We just knew we had to be there.
Yeah.
And Mom was always so happy to know that we all had us and the others. But my husband, who just passed away, Uncle Cletus, passed away 1.5 years ago. But you know, he left behind so much.
Yeah.
He taught us so much, and I'm so glad that he was there for you,
Yeah.
right from young till he passed away. And I saw even more of you. You give more of yourself to us.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about the second time that you were in the hospital, I remember you were still there, but Nicole, my daughter, was her little baby Ava's first communion.
Yeah.
And your mom said, Shaq said he wants to come. So you got permission to come out from the hospital with your mom, get a taxi, and you were there for the full baptism ceremony. And you showed up. No matter what you were feeling, what you knew, you had to be there.
Yeah.
And that means so much. Because sometimes you'll have people next door, wherever, they
Yeah.
don't take that as important. So I see that going into hospital, coming out of it, you have just developed. And we have to thank God for medicine, for abilities to help growth. And I have to make one big difference is our age, our parents' age, back home, mental health was taboo. We never spoke about it. And I remember when you got your mental health diagnosed, everyone said, shh, no need to tell others. Your mom too thought, okay, let's see, this will pass. And for the longest time, we didn't share it. And I didn't even share it with my own family because we respected what your mom wanted and of your condition. Till you came out with it and you said, hey, what the heck, right? More people need to know about my illness and about mental health in the world. I think, wow, bang on. It's time that we shut that door, crashed it, busted it, and come out in the open because there's so many people ashamed. They're hiding. Back home in India, we had people locked up in rooms. They were afraid to put them in these mental hospitals where they stayed for months and years, and parents just were so ashamed. So today we are really liberated, we are set free, and we say, thank goodness we are all human beings, all need love, and all heal. So that's amazing. We have to thank you, Sharup.
Absolutely, and thank
opening a big
God
door.
God for it too, right?
Yeah.
It's important. And you know what's amazing about, like, even you know, going to Ava's baptism, you know, I think what was also beautiful about that was your family not even hesitating having me there, knowing what was going on. Because a lot of times when someone has a mental health condition or is going through something, their families, quite frankly, are ashamed and don't want to project that to the rest of the world and their friend circle. And the fact that you felt comfortable enough taking the risk of having me there, not knowing what mental state I was going to show up in,
Yeah.
is, I mean, your faith obviously plays a big part of that, is that God would protect whoever was in that room. But it gave me that this group accepts me again, you know, and I'm even though I'm going through something, I'm still here and I'm still normal and I can still get through it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's why a lot of the work I do is restoring people's dignity. You know, is
True.
whether they're homeless, whether they're dealing with something, you know, even if they haven't taken a bath in 6 years, you know, it's restoring their dignity, giving
Yeah.
giving them a hug, giving them a handshake, not making disparaging comments. Like, you know, you often hear people say, "Oh, this person's a weirdo," or you know, they're strange, and words have impact, right? Words mean something. Why are you saying things like that? Because that you don't know what that person's gone through, and it's important for all of us to be kind to one another, right? And I think that's where a lot of that comes to. So I think you kind of allowing me to be at that baptism was a huge show, a gesture to say he's a part of the family. It doesn't matter what he's going through because he has a right to be here and we want him
Yeah.
here, right? And you're right, like mental health, you know, I hate to say it, is we talk about it openly in this room,
Yeah.
but there's still many parts of society where it's not openly spoken about. You know, the reality is at work, you know, it's never been said, but as I got mentally fit, it's no surprise that I moved further away from my partnership case and out the door as I was restructured out of the company, right? And it's where do we need to get to in society to really move that conversation forward? And I think you guys being here is a big part of that. Is there's a lot of people that support it, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's coworkers, and just even strangers, right? You know, not looking at the homeless person on the road like they don't deserve to be there. You know, and I think that's all important. And I think all three of you have shown compassion to me. And I think that's so important as people deal with their own mental health journeys, you know? And so in the next kind of part of our discussion, you know, if you had one thing you could say to either someone struggling with mental health, you know, someone in their support system, or one thing you wish you knew back then that you know now, what would that kind of piece of advice be? And you could answer all of those questions, but you could,
Like you said it earlier, like it's going to be okay. I think,
yeah,
and I can say that with conviction because I've seen the example that I've watched where had every reason to fall down and give up, and what you've been able to create would be the example that I would point to. So I'm grateful to have that, but to be able to give the person the encouragement that it's going to be okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty big question.
yeah. Pretty low.
Yeah,
Three
it's a pretty
questions in
loaded
one, right?
question.
Yeah,
There's so much going through my head. I mean, actually, for the workplace, I'm pretty sure now they've evolved in 10 years. I'm sure there's probably is help in the workplace a lot more um, for mental health, either through your benefits plan, to counseling.
mm-hmm.
Like also, counseling is taken as a negative. That's step one. It's okay to get, counseling. Someone that's bounded by protecting your confidentiality. Like that would be if there's something like that in the workplace, go for that. Um, in terms of the other thing in the workplace, I was thinking is that if there's a physical disability, like for instance, it's easy for workplace to come up with a workplace accommodation, like, hey, we'll change your desk so you can work, or we'll add a ramp so you can come to work, right? But with the mental, it's kind of invincible.
Yeah.
There needs to be a lot more work done, adding, I guess, where bipolar empath comes in.
Yeah, nice plug for it there, right?
I'm gonna throw that in there, right? Like I think there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah.
If I had to give advice, it'd be like, you got to slow down and smell the roses. You can't just keep gunning by. If I had to give to a younger self, is and like what Steve said, like even when I saw you in the hospital the second time, in my brain, I already knew you were gonna be fine. Like we saw it, right? That first one, like already I knew it was gonna be. It may not be tomorrow. I know eventually you're gonna come out of the hospital. I knew eventually, whatever once medication, whatever how you're feeling, that's gonna go past. It's gonna be the shock that I know. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
the core principle of Shaq, that hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Bipolar or no bipolar, medication or no medication, it's still right. So if someone's in the support network, that person is still your person.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different, but it's still the core principles have not changed in that person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I think awareness of this is so important, that whether we are at our workplace, we are with family, friends, events, awareness enlightens us, educates us, and I'm more able to, I think you need the gift of love, understanding, uh, lots of giving to reach out to people who could be just any one of us could. When we see family members kind of being odd, and we used to think, oh, as you said, weird or strange, we all have to be aware of some of these signs, because we just think, oh, he's had a bad day or he's tired. But now when I see people, they label them as attention deficit disorder, ADD, whatever. I think it's important now to look more into it, check yourself more, get the help because it's available, and spot it out earlier than later, right? Sometimes you can see the signs, but you push it away and you think, oh, just a bad time.
Yeah.
But it's nice to educate yourself. What is mental health? What are these things? As you said, it's invisible, but it's really there. It's not like you said, if somebody has an accident or you see somebody hurting themselves in emergency, they'll take those people first.
Yeah.
And you said somebody who's got a mental health, they're suffering, tormented, but they can't see it, and they'll let you pass by. So
Yeah.
I just think that it's so nice to be open about it, reach out, give of our time. Many of us are so self-centered, so involved in what we're doing. I think when we have time, be aware, give your time, reach out. As you said, you had people visiting you, visit them too, give of your time. And I know you, after you've come out of it, I'm amazed. You help so many people. You know what pain is, you know what it is to give of yourself, and still you're full-fledged, working, successful businessman. Same time educating yourself, done your master's in psychology. I think that life has got so much to offer us, and we should look at mental health as something we can conquer, something we can reach out. And I would truly, because of you, I say, wow, I wish there were more people like you. I have family, I have friends, but the people who have reached to me most when my husband passed away are people like you. You've knocked on my door. You've done all the work I needed since my husband was not there. You stepped up to the plate. And that's why I think that being more aware of who you are, understanding your situation, reaching out, and you give all of your time. That's important thing too. When you know who you are, when I watch you, when you visit us just recently, a few days ago, you didn't care about looking at your time.
Yeah.
Even when we went out for lunch, dinner, we took you out. It was your mom's death anniversary, but you have given all of yourself. And I wish there were many more people who are like you, Shahrukh. And I sincerely say it. I feel proud to call you my nephew, my son, my friend, because you set that role and you can help others be such amazing, beautiful people in this world. So again, I say thank you, Lord. Thank you, Shahrukh.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Yeah,
that's yeah, that touched me for sure.
yeah.
I think, and I know you're very strong in your faith. Like, even though my mother and I come from, Islam and you come from Catholicism, I think, we appreciate what binds us in our faith and our faith in God and what that means. And I was looking at something yesterday, a clip about, I know Pope Francis has been sick recently, and we pray for him, and we wish for his speedy recovery and healthy recovery. But there was a clip showing him visiting a local prison in Rome last year. And there's the one activity that you probably know better than me where, as a gesture, Jesus washed the feet of some of his disciples,
Yeah.
to show humility, to show compassion, to show, that gesture towards his disciples. And I think a lot can be learned from that lesson as we sit here on Easter long weekend to say, being humble, being respectful to all mankind and all of those around us is such an important thing for all of us to do. And for those in support networks that really struggle with how to support those around you, sometimes it's just being there. Like, you don't know when that person's going to call, but just being there might be all that they need. Because it's like that one time where they're like, Mayday, I need help. And just knowing that, okay, like, now's my time to show support and what I can do, right? And you don't know if that day will come. At the end of the day, I truly believe everyone's recovery is their responsibility themselves. And all the support network could be theirs to help support them, but it's that person's responsibility to accept it, to understand it, to learn about it, and to do what they need to do for their recovery journeys. So I truly appreciate all of you for being here. Your participation in this session means the world to me. I truly think that getting the message of support networks is so important. And your willingness, you didn't even hesitate when I asked you if you would be willing to participate in this, because I know sometimes, not just for the person with mental health, but even as someone that supports someone, you don't want people to see you. Right. And the fact that you all are willing to be, not only have your voices heard, but have your faces shown as well, is commendable. And I applaud all of you, because people need to know that there are so many people dealing with mental health in this world, whether they experience it themselves, whether they have an illness themselves, whatever. It impacts all of us, right? And it's everyone's voice matters. And, what you have done here today will go such a long way in helping support not only my cause, but just supporting, others. People can say, they got through it. Like, we can sit here today having this conversation. We had some laughs, we talked about things, but as you guys know, and as you've said, things were scary. It was scary. And what you've defined as the second time it just felt like it was going to get better, it's because, as I described in my blog post in the book, is the second time was when I was like, no, I gotta take control of this. I can no longer not understand what I'm going through. And that's the moment, like my aha, like light bulb moment, where it's like, okay, this is it. And I think I saw it in myself, which is why I think what you guys were able to see in me at that time was me not fighting it anymore, and me accepting it and knowing that I had to do something about it. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And as some gifts for you for participating. Oops, sorry, got my mic all twisted. Yeah, exactly. Some swag. So that one's for Steve with the hat.
Thank you very much.
And then there's one large and small. I'll let you guys figure out which one's for who.
Beautiful
great,
bag.
awesome.
I always love bags.
Yeah, I know you like it when it's coordinated too, right? I was looking yesterday and I had 3 of the same. I'm like,
Yeah.
and Angela's gonna like that,
The bag.
right?